Welcome to the conversation. My name is Shannon Taylor. I'm the Executive Director of Blacks and Jews in Conversation, otherwise known as Not Just Blacks and Jews in Conversation. Our special guests, the Honorable Richaed Weinber of the Midtown Community Court, presiding judge, and the director of all projects there, Angela Tolosa. I just want to put in there, she's of Philippine ancestry, so that you should know we cover the world here on this show. We get all nationalities and all backgrounds are here on this show, and we welcome them and all viewpoints as well. Our organization has been around for 13 years, and Judge Weinberg spoke for us at Stuyvesant High School. He has come from a distinguished career as an attorney. He represented George Carlin with the 7 dirty words. You will not hear that on prime time. I could repeat them verbatim, having met George Carlin a number of times, but I would have deferred to Judge Weinberg, but that's not for this show, it's for a higher crowd. And he then went on to Bob Abrams as his Assistant Attorney General, and Bob Abrams is part of our sponsor of our missions of judges to Israel, and from there to Speaker Peter Vallone of the City Council, and as now presiding judge of the Midtown Court. For those of you who have not been there, I suggest a trip, a visit, but not with a summons in hand, or you'll have a very different experience than I did. First of all, the Midtown Community Court is the first of its kind in the world, and I'll let Judge Weinberg tell you exactly what kind of court it is. It is for the community. There's the Red Hook Community Court as well, where I joined as a referee for housing, but this is something extraordinary here in Manhattan, and it covers a whole variety of summonses, and we're going to deal with all these summonses in this program, and let's start right off with what kind of jurisdiction it has. Judge Weinberg.
Okay, it's much larger than summonses, it's desk appearance tickets, it's summonses, it's arrests, it's online arrests. So I have people who are in custody coming through the back who are defendants who are actually under arrest, and I have to determine whether it's established bail or not set bail with respect to these individuals. The Midtown Community Court was founded in 1993. It's the first problem-solving community court in the world, in the United States. We started this noble experiment. This noble experiment had 3 goals. First goal was to preserve, protect, and defend the community. Second goal was to provide meaningful rehabilitation opportunities for the people who appeared in the court as defendants. And the third was to establish meaningful partnerships with the community groups, the community leaders, the business leaders, the social leaders, the governmental leaders. The goal was to create a court where we could save the city of New York, because in '93 the city was at great risk, and we were going to lose the theater district, which is a center of tourism and entertainment for this city and this country, and in many cases for the world. And we had to save it. And so as a result of the vision of Chief Judge Judy Kaye of New York Court of Appeals, who heads the court system, and people like Jerry Schoenfeld, who's the head of the Schubert organization, they decided to create a special court having jurisdiction over quality life crimes and violations in Midtown.
Now, they just came back and they honored your court with the Broadway Association in January of '07. Was it because they were part of the founders of the court, or was it because they recognized the great work you're doing today?
Well, the Broadway Association has been a key supporter of the court, as have the constituent members, both the organizations and the individuals, and they've recognized the hard work that Angela Tolosa, as our project director, and her predecessors and their staffs have done to try to preserve and protect the community. Also some recognition of the approach that I try to bring into the job since becoming the presiding judge in January of '06. And my goal for myself was not to rest on the laurels of the previous accomplishments of the court. I recognize I was standing on the shoulders of giants, but to try to build on the great accomplishments of the court to go even further. And so Angela and I and our staff constantly creating new, innovative programs. They're in existence nowhere else in the city, in the state, in fact, sometimes in this country, in terms of different kinds of programs that can reach out and make a difference in people's lives, to get them on the right track, to get away from the path of lawlessness, to get them back on the track of being righteous, productive citizens who have meaningful lives and who are an asset to the community rather than negative to the community.
I I noticed, I'm holding up the brochure, so everybody can see that this was no fiction. This was quite an event. And if I wasn't so busy myself in the courts, I would have been there. But you had NBC, you had Fox, you had the League of American Theaters and Producers, you had the great advertising agency Serena Coyne, and then you had Madame Tussauds. They must have taken time away from their exhibit of Yasser Arafat in order to come over there. I remember the days when there were protests of their honoring him right next to the Theater of Presidents. But certainly with these great supporters, each having a table, that you can draw upon them to support the Midtown Court in the present and the future.
Okay, I draw upon them, I call upon them. Angela and I are shameless in our advocacy for the court. We constantly need more resources, more support, more help, so we can have more mentors, more educational programs, more internships, more job opportunities, more training programs. We even have a program, for example, with some of the law firms. Our people, our defendants will come by, they will get dressed up in clothing that we provide, and they'll practice their interviewing techniques. They can go out and compete in the job market to try to get jobs and career opportunities. We have all kinds of programs, and we need all kinds of resources. If we had trouble with the resources, we could use every nickel we got. If we had more physical space, we could use more physical space. If I had 3 times the staff, I know Angela would make very, very good use of that staff for trainers and counselors and people who could help people get help. And that's what we try to do.
Angela, there is a brochure from the court that says there are no victimless crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are various opinions on this, and I'm not setting forth any opinion of our own. Certainly our organization stands for no opinions. We only bring people together for conversation, stimulating dialogues, and so on. But what is the standards in the Midtown Court regarding this position? What does it mean that there are no victimless crimes?
To us at the Midtown Community Court, the fact that there are no victimless crimes really is rooted in the court's philosophy and mission that the community itself is victimized by any kind of low-level crime, if it's public urination, if it's carrying open container of alcohol, if it is street prostitution, if it's low-level drug possession. Even if these seem to be just things that in the past someone would just get a slap on the wrist for. No victimless crimes means that when you have a plethora of these low-level offenses in a community, it degrades the neighborhood. It makes the community feel as if the police don't care, as if lawlessness can survive. So to us in the Midtown Community Court, what we do is we involve the community as much as possible in administering the alternative sanctions that the court runs. So for instance, one of the reasons that we started the Community Impact Panel at the Midtown Community Court is because we believe there's no victimless crimes, because we ask the community themselves to vocalize directly with the offenders in a mediated forum about how their actions affect their lives, their neighborhoods, their children, their families. So, for instance, we have what we call the Youth Impact Panel, where we have young people in a facilitated forum talking to other young people who've committed crimes to talk to them about how their shoplifting crimes, how their prostitution crimes, how their jumping a turnstile crime isn't just about, getting away with something, but it is about, number one, making the community be unsafe, number two, affecting them individually because they're not going to be able to have the same kind of opportunities with jobs or college if they have a criminal record, and number three, about how it affects other young people, that other young people get profiled because of certain young adults are committing crimes, and it sort of makes stereotypes among youth about how their actions are perceived by the public or by the police. So what we are about is that understanding that, even though someone may be thinking they're an independent operator, there really is a larger picture and a larger sort of victim in every kind of crime that happens.
There's a theory called the broken window theory, which is that you have to go after lawlessness with the first broken window, because if you don't allow it to be challenged, you're creating an environment for worse kind of crime.
Right.
And there's great sociological, criminological, statistical evidence that shows that, in fact, that's what happens, that neighborhoods become lawless and become no man's land. In Hell's Kitchen, where the Midtown Court is situated, before the establishment of the Midtown Court, it was a no man's land. And now this is a place that's being gentrified, rehabilitated. People are raising their families. There's housing going up. There are job opportunities. There's schools being created. There's more theaters going up. There's more hotels. The advertising industry has moved some of their center core firms over there, major law firms over there, the banking centers, money managers. So Hell's Kitchen, now known as Midtown West or Clinton, has been rehabilitated. There are three components to what saved Midtown. And it was a very important challenge to save Midtown, because if you lost Midtown, it was a symbol that you could lose the city. The first was the initiative by Speaker Peter Vallone of the City Council, when I was the General Counsel, the Safe Streets program, which put more police officers on the street, more social workers, more prosecutors, more legal aid lawyers, more drug counselors, more mentors into the program. And that was done with Mayor Dinkins. In '93, the community court was established. The third component was the attempt by Mayor Giuliani and Police Commissioner Bratton on community policing. All those things work very, very well together, hand in glove, to reestablish a sense of lawfulness and a quality of life where you want to raise your children and work and live and be entertained, be a tourist. It was a wonderful, wonderful thing. As a result of that, people decided that it was a neighborhood that you could invest in. So they had the so-called Times Square rezoning. So all kinds of office buildings and hotels and housing have now come into that community as a result of the three things I talked about: Safe Street, Safe City, the Midtown Community Court, and the Community Policing Initiative.
Judge Weinberg, how would you describe Angela's duties for you and with the community court?
I often say that as judge of the Midtown Community Court, as presiding judge, I have the easiest job in the entire courthouse. The toughest job, after I deal with the people who come before me as defendants in the courtroom, the really hard work of the court is the social laboratory, is the social services enterprise that's run by Angela and by her staff to give people counseling, job opportunities, drug rehab programs, an alternative to prostitution. People who have drinking problems get into programs. We have in-house programs where we place them in in-house programs. We have outpatient programs. We have job training. We have English as second language. We have financial skills programs. We have programs that I take great pride in having established, and it doesn't exist anywhere else in the city or the state as far as I know. Responsible driving program. We were plagued with a series of major accidents in the Midtown area, and it came to pass that I realized that the answer wasn't a day of community service, but you had to improve people's skills as drivers. So I now have a responsible driving program when people are charged with reckless driving, which is a very serious crime. It's a misdemeanor, it's a crime, as an alternative to being prosecuted and going to jail and possibly having a criminal conviction the rest of their lives. They can have an ACD, an adjournment contemplation dismissal, provided they go into the program to learn to be safer and better drivers. See, what we're trying to do all the time is to try to be innovative, to try to see what the problems of the community are, and what we can do, as I as a judge, Angela as a project director, with the staff, to come up with more programs, more services, more opportunities to make our community a safer and better place to be.
Angela, what is the most difficult aspect of your month? Not on a day-to-day basis, but on a month. You have goals for the month. A project takes time to develop. A project takes time to conceive and to reach fruition. And of course, when it blossoms, then of course there's the follow-up, and you want others to know about it, and you want to go to the next level. So how do the ideas germinate, and how do they reach success?
Well, the ideas germinate by having a very serious effort in the beginning in doing best practices research and doing strategic planning with every single program that comes through the Midtown Community Court. while with Judge Weinberg's support, we are able to evolve and create programs that are sort of addressing the needs of the ever-changing defendant population that we're seeing. We also want to make sure that the programs that people are going to be sentenced to, they are alternatives to jail. So we have to really ensure that they are of top quality, that people will be reporting compliance, and that the defendants will be experiencing some sort of knowledge gain or change in behavior after they attend. And I think what one of my monthly goals is to make sure that, of our 14 different on-site programs and a whole host of other off-site programs, that we're ensuring that defendants are getting quality services, and that we can also make sure that they come back to the court afterwards. To us, the success is not just that they comply with their alternative sentence, but that they come back and engage in voluntary services. So for instance, right now we have 2 job training programs. One is called Times Square Inc. and one is called Times Square Youth. And these are 2 services that we started because we know that the defendant population was coming through, committing crimes, and claiming unemployment was one of the causes for their behavior. So with the court support, with support from private foundations, from government agencies, we offer free employment placement, free employment assistance to individuals with criminal backgrounds, to young people who have been pushed out of school or have gotten their GED. And to us, we always try to work on selling that defendants that come through should not just come through the back door, but should also come through the front door. So to us, and to me, what I really am a big supporter of is to making sure that defendants come back and get jobs, that get counseling, that get reunited with their families. And all those successes each month that we are able to track and also to share with our funders, because we are a not-for-profit project of the Center for Court Innovation, as well as the supporters in the community, all sort of increases public trust in the court system, increases public trust in social services. And that's what we're about, is we're not about sort of the hug-a-thug philosophy of just giving some person, opportunity that may not lead to change. We are about meaningful change and about supporting people to make real reform and, to make the city better every day.
We have an 80% compliance rate with our conditional discharges.
You took the words right out of my mouth. Here I am doing my research. It says right here that over 80% of defendants sentenced to alternative sentences complete their mandates much higher than defendants in traditional court settings.
Absolutely correct.
Since 1993, the court has processed over 206,000 cases, resulting in over $2.6 million in labor through community service. You didn't think I did my homework? I wouldn't have you as a judge without doing something there. I have too much respect for you both. The Midtown Community Court is a project of the Center for Court Innovation and a winner of Innovations in American Government Award from the Ford Foundation and Harvard University's John Kennedy School of Government. It's a think tank. That's what I like to know, a think tank, like Blacks and Jews in Conversation, a think tank. Only we didn't need the Ford Foundation or the Kennedy Center or any of these other things that preceded us. We do the thinking on our own. We get all these wonderful judges like yourself and Judge Kay, and the thinking comes naturally. It pours into M&N, which is part of your jurisdiction, Judge. Did you know that your jurisdiction covers this very station?
14th Street to 59th Street, as far west as the Hudson, as far east as Lexington Avenue, and it's going to get larger and bigger still.
Well, you see, we just made it. We're on the cusp. We're on the very folding edge, on the knife edge of your jurisdiction. And I want you to know that I will only be in your court as a guest. Now, let me go on to tell you about Judge Weinberg. He has a long history in supporting the arts. That's what M&N wants to know. He's a past member of the Board of Directors of Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts and of City Center of Music and Drama. Presently a member of the Board of Directors of the Atlantic Theater Company, the Patrons Leadership Council of the Theater Club.
Manhattan Theater Club, correct.
Manhattan. And right here is Judith Kay with Judge Weinberg shortly after receiving the award for the community court from the Broadway Association, of which is now a member of the board as well. And Judge, I'd like now to turn it back to you because I note in the statistics that prostitution cases have gone down. I know the activity has not gone down, but for some reason in your court, has the jurisdiction been rearranged? Have they moved somewhere else? Have they?
Well, I get 80% of the prosecution cases in Manhattan, by arrangement with the district attorney's office and the court system and the police department. The only cases that are prosecution cases I don't get are the ones who were arrested over the weekend. So I get the prosecution cases, I get the lawyering for prosecution cases, I get the patronizing of prosecution cases. And because of Angela's creativity and wisdom, we've reconfigured our prostitution programs. We have all kinds of programs, both in-house and with outside providers, to get these folks the opportunity to turn their lives around. Always backed, understand this, always backed by a meaningful jail alternative. All the community programs that we do, all the social work efforts that we do, are always backed that if they don't do what they have to do and take individual responsibility for their own lives, there's going to be a jail sanction which I will impose. Not happily, not gladly, with some sorrow, but with no hesitation at all. If you don't fulfill your obligations to the court, if you don't do your community service, if you don't do the rehab program, if you don't do what you have to do to make yourself a better person and not a threat to the community, then I will put you in jail. And that's my mandate to the staff. I listen very, very carefully to try to have an individualized determination about what the right thing to do is on every case. But you have to be responsible for your own conduct. I believe in that. Everything else fails if you do not take individual responsibility for your own conduct. And the aim of the court is to teach you the skills and the approach to take individual responsibility for your own conduct so you can be a better citizen and make the city a better place to live, and that you're not a threat to the community, but you're an asset to the community.
Some of the top charges: vending, stolen property, trespassing, prostitution, drugs, disorderly conduct, open container, panhandling, petty larceny. And the top 5 misdemeanor charges for 2006: vending, stolen property, trespassing, prostitution, and drugs. Do you notice a change from year to year in the charges? Do you notice that the percentages vary from year to year? And do you notice whether or not the income level of the defendant changes from year to year on the whole?
Angela, can I throw that with you?
Sure, Judge, no problem. Well, one of the things about Midtown Community Court is that we have had shifts in our jurisdiction over time because the community has applauded us for our success in helping to address quality of life issues. So, for instance, as Judge Weinber alluded to, in 1993 we started out, just taking cases from Midtown area. In 1995, we started taking cases from the entire borough of Manhattan that related to prostitution. In 2005, we started taking all illegal street vending cases for the entire borough of Manhattan. So we've had changes in the demographics of individuals coming through the court, and as far as race, ethnicity, gender, income. There have been shifts. We've seen, for instance, among young adults. Let's take, for example, in 2006, the top crime that young adults was committing, young people under age of 21, was possession of criminal property and shoplifting. That has definitely changed since when the court started in 1993, where the top, charges that young people were coming through were things like drug possession and public urination and public drinking. Now what we've noticed is that there's unfortunately been this glamorization of clothing and luxury goods, and young people think that stealing is okay, or stealing is something that that's not a big deal. So that's definitely something we've sort of seen as a change. As far as prostitution goes, the police have also made different sort of changes in the ways that enforcement has occurred. We're seeing now a lot more individuals that are coming through who are hailing from foreign countries, especially China and Korea, and parts of the former Soviet Union. So we're working with groups including New York Association for New Americans, GEMS, and other organizations that have services that are offered in different languages, because there is definitely a trafficking problem. The city is now, I think, in my opinion, is doing more of a targeted effort to address, in many different levels, from law enforcement, from the courts, And as you know, there's a new human trafficking law that was passed. It's going to be enforced in November. It's also going to really sort of change the landscape of criminal justice.
Judge Weinberg,
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, do you believe, as I do, that major inspiration for the variety of courts, the innovative courts, the innovative types of alternative sentencing has always been Judge Kaye?
Yes.
And that, as I've thought, that besides being an inspiration for our organization, the Blacks and Jews in Conversation, in addition to Judge Thompson's Kornblatt, that, and of course symbolizing the invaluable inventiveness and assistance that women have always played, and now that they've finally come into their own, that society has allowed it, Judge Kaye has been the motivating factor above all others, and seeing to it that the courts have essentially left their behind-the-desk approach and gone into the community.
I think that's absolutely correct. We were the first problem-solving court, community court in the country, indeed the world. We started this noble experiment. The forces behind it, as I indicated earlier, with Judge Kaye and Sherry Schoenfeld, the Schubert organization, other community leaders, John Feinblatt, who's now Mayor of Bloomberg's criminal justice coordinator, who was the first project director of the court. He and Greg Berman, who's now the project director, the head of CCI, the Center for Court Innovation, wrote this wonderful book called Good Courts. But none of this could have been possible unless Judge Kaye seized the moment and went forward with courage and with brilliance to try to make a difference. As a result of that, we've gone from this noble experiment to the model for the world. And judges and attorneys general and prosecutors and defense lawyers and criminologists and governmental leaders and mayors of Los Angeles and San Francisco and throughout the world, Africa, Asia, Europe, Latin America, come to visit us on a constant basis because of this creative approach. We're social laboratories always looking to create new programs and new approaches. Judge Kaye has created the atmosphere for our innovative approach. The wonderful thing about being the presiding judge of the Midtown Community Court is if I come up with some ideas, I can sit down with Angela and the staff and immediately put them into effect and implementation. Angela can come up with ideas and sit down with me, and if we think it works in terms of our agenda, we immediately go forward. We launch that program. We're constantly seeking out partnerships, and we're constantly seeking out support. We're constantly doing outreach in the community and meeting with folks from all over the community. We help problems on the homeless. We have our staff going out to meet with the homeless to try to get them shelter and food and social services.
That's about it.